you're pretty much a Welsh fan these days rather than a player, of course. We saw disappointment of the Scotland fans last week after a lot of hype about them going into round 2. Where are your excitement/optimism levels?
Quite high actually. Excitement-wise, I was really pleased with the way Wales played. They played with tempo, they got over the gain line, got players like Josh Adams, Stephen Evans involved in the game nice and early, and they looked very dangerous. A lot of line breaks, a few tries, and then conceded a try at the end, but we'll take that. So it fills me with a lot of optimism. And then I watched England against Italy. First half, Italy made it very difficult for England. They're always scrappy, and they're going to be in the first half of any game really. But then I was just blown away by the strength in depth that England have. The bench that came on, the players they have, a calibre of players they have on the bench to come on and did what they did. Just goes to show what kind of squad England have at the moment, despite Eddie Jones saying they have a lot of injuries. The players that come in done a good job, I can tell you that. So it's going to be tough. It is Twickenham, it's away from home, but we could have been in a lot worse position. We could have lost against Scotland, and it'd be very daunting then. Yeah,
certainly would. I mean, in terms of the Welsh optimism, that comes from obviously the performance that you've seen, but what else? Do you get to speak to any of the players? Do you see it through how Warren Gatland seems to be? Because he seems, I wouldn't say cocky, but certainly very, very confident currently.
I think cocky might be the right word. That's Warren for you, really. No, look, they obviously had a game plan. They implemented it on the day. And when you're a coach, there's no better feeling probably, especially when you win the match. So, they've done exactly what they said they were going to do. They were going to play this open, expansive, high-tempoed game. They did it. It worked. And I just hope they do the same on the weekend and they don't resort to any other kind of style of rugby. It obviously suits the calibre of players they have. They picked the same squad. It's a no-brainer for me. They go out and they do exactly they try and do, exactly what they did against Scotland and hopefully win the match. So, you can see why Warren's got a little smile on his face for once, but that's, it's easier said than done. England's going to be a different ball game. I think they'll be a little bit more prepared than the Scots. I think the Scots probably didn't expect Wales to play like they did and probably expected a little bit more from themselves. However, it's always like our first game of the Six Nations. Second game in now, the water's been tested, and now they go head to head.
England arguably will be more in the face of Wales. Wales arguably will be more in the face of England. I know Jamie Roberts has spoken this week about there being a lot less space to play in. Which team do you think will sort of suffer more with that?
I don't know. I was really impressed with both teams, the way that they attacked. Like we've already said, they probably had a little bit of space and a bit more time to attack. England attack very deep, which means that Wales's defence is going to have to be even quicker and up out off the defensive line there, which could play in the hands of England, because the further you've got to come up in the defensive line, the more chance there are of dog legs and errors within your defensive system.
Yeah, will Reece Patchell and George Ford be practicing those little dinks over the top?
I wouldn't be surprised if you see a lot of that because of the line speed of both defences. I think England's defence will be a lot more aggressive than the Scots was on the weekend. We won't see as many lines breaks, I don't think. Be great, by both teams, for a neutral spectator. But I think there'd be far more errors. There'd be far more pressure put in defence. However, Wales are going to have to get used to that because teams are going to do that. And you look at the Welsh team, a lot of Scarlets in that back line. They're doing it week in, week out, transferring the ball out of tackles, scoring tries, getting on the wing berths there. And hopefully they can keep doing that in the international level. So for me, it just means that there will be more pressure, but there may be a few more mistakes, but there may be a lot of good rugby played within it as well.
10 years ago, you played in the game at Twickenham where Wales came from behind to win a memorable match and go on to win that Grand Slam in 2008. What are your memories of that day?
I just remember getting into half-time relieved. We were out on our feet. We really could have lost that match at half-time. Just stopping Paul Saki scoring the bottom right-hand corner and thinking, well, if he'd have scored that, it was curtains for us. The half-time was interesting. Sean Edwards went absolutely nuts on us all, and then you got Warren Gatland just coming in and being this calm influence and then just sending us on our way. the second half, the rest is history, I should say. To finish it like we did, putting England under pressure, picked our defence up. The line speed was a lot better second half, which is going to have to be on Saturday. And Mike Phillips charging that kick down and eventually scoring a try that won it for us. And then we go on and win the Grand Slam. So it was a huge game then. It's a huge game now. Yeah,
it certainly is. I mean, you won on that day. You've played 5 other times at Twickenham where the result didn't go your way. I mean, is Twickenham seen as an intimidating atmosphere? Can Barber jackets and Range Rover drivers be intimidating to opponents?
It's not it's not quite as scary as driving into Joburg or something like that and seeing the fans outside with their hog roasts and everything, driving through Twickenham. But when you're playing a very good side and they get the upper hand, and then the crowd gets on top of you, it can get quite heavy on the old shoulders. And I've definitely played in Twickenham enough times now to say that you've got to start well against England. If England play well, the crowd gets behind them, they start singing the Chariots. It's a tough place for any team to go and play. So it's all about having a good start, putting England under pressure, and when you put England under pressure, the crowd goes a little bit quieter, as it does in any other stadium really. But if you could silence the crowd in Twickenham and kind of get a bit of momentum, it's not that bad.
Yeah. You mentioned, sort of, as we've discussed, sort of where you think the game might be won and lost. Who are the sort of characters that you think will be pivotal to either of these sides?
I think it's I think 9 and 10 is key. It definitely is. Especially.
Do you think England will be upset with the absence of Youngs and Wigglesworth coming in?
Yeah, I think Youngs is a great play for England, and it is going to change the dynamics slightly. But Wigglesworth is certainly good enough. You've got Danny Kerr and these players who are good enough. For Wales, I think the back row. Shingle had a great game on the weekend. He needs to play like that again, along with Josh Navidi. We need to get a front foot in that area. The rucks at times and the breakdowns got a little bit disrupted by Scotland, and England are going to do exactly the same. So those guys are going to need to play well. For England, I think everything revolves around Farrell. He's a leader within himself, and him and Ford work exceptionally well. They get the back line firing. Get players like Watson in the game and Burrell and whoever's playing, they get them firing and look very dangerous when he gets going forward. But all around the park, England are very dangerous. Wales as well, they're going to have to cope with Farrell, which means that Evans and Josh Adams are going to be busy because you're going to have 2 kicking options there. Look, it's going to be tough for Wales, I think. There's a lot of key areas for England. And I think it's good to see Lee Halfpenny hit a bit of form in attack as well, scoring tries. And who knows, if England's discipline isn't very good, we've got someone like Lee Halfpenny who can slot the points for us as well. So there's just so many good players on that field at the moment.
Certainly are. In terms of then how they go on from this game, crystal ball time, do you think the winner of the game on Saturday is looking at a Grand Slam run?
Whether it's a Grand Slam, I don't know. I think if England beat Wales, they go on and win the Grand Slam. I think if Wales win this game, they win the championship.
So you're calling the Ireland game there potentially?
I think that's really tough. Again, I know what it's like in Dublin, and this Irish side, so resilient. Even when they're not on top of their game, they can go through 40 phases and slot a drop goal when they want to, So that's typical Ireland for you, really. And it's happened to me, so I can say that with Rog, with O'Gara. But Dublin's a different story. But I can also see them winning there as well, Wales. But I think it's a huge game. It really is a huge game. If Wales can beat England in Twickenham, they can win any game. I really believe that, and that's typical Welsh people for you. That's what we do. The 2 times I've won a Grand Slam is because probably we've beaten England in the first matches within that year. So I think it's a huge game. I think England win, they win the Grand Slam. If Wales win, they can go on and win a championship.
Good. Now we're talking to you in a Japanese restaurant here. I think they're doing the cleaning out the back currently. But we have the series. Shane Williams, big in Japan. You can see what they did there.
Yeah.
Tell us about your experience in Japan. Tell us, are you going to be the new Judith Chalmers showing us around?
Well, I hope so. She's done some travelling. She's seen some nice places, didn't she? We just decided to do this. It was a little bit different, a little bit tongue-in-cheek, the programme itself. We took Andy Powell with us, for God's sake. So we didn't take it too seriously. When I got approached to do this, obviously with the World Cup coming up, and when I was told that I'd be sumo wrestling making Japanese pottery, spending time with Japanese monks and geishas and so on and so forth. I jumped at the chance. One, it's an excuse to go back to Japan, and two, we can have a bit of fun doing the program at the same time. No, it was great, and I spent 3 years in Japan, and I wanted to show people really what you can encounter when you go there, and if you decide to go there for the World Cup, which I would massively encourage. So that's what the program was for, and it was great to spend a bit of time with Andy Powell as well. Things are never too serious when Andy's about. And we had a great time and come back and just want to do it all over again.
Well, finally, for those people that might be considering a plan to Japan in 2019, it's probably around now that they're considering whether or not they're going to book those flights in a few months, that sort of thing. They might see Japan as perhaps a real foreign land. Culturally, it can be so different. But what would your experience of it like in terms of actually, how do you describe it to people as to why they should go and what's on offer?
Yeah, when I try and explain to people what Japan's like, I always start by saying that try and imagine the most opposite to what you've ever experienced. In Wales, for me, I'm from the Amman Valley. Everyone knows each other. Small little town. You go to Japan. I'm living in Tokyo. Millions and millions of people there. Everyone's rushing here, then everywhere. Nothing ever closes. And it's just unbelievable. Things I got to see and do in Japan, I would never have had that opportunity anywhere else in the world. Like I said earlier, to train with sumo wrestlers, to have tea with geishas, to go and spend some time with a monk under a waterfall. These things are things that just don't happen, in the Amman Valley or anywhere else in the UK.
Certainly not in the Amman Valley.
Not in the Amman Valley. So to explain it, the people and the culture there, it's just unique and something that I've never experienced before. The people are so friendly, so lovely, so helpful, will do anything for you. And there's so many things to see and do out there. God, I spent time going in Okinawa, in the ocean there. I went skiing Christmas time, sumo wrestling, Disney park, just everything. And like I say, people who are talking already about thinking about going to the World Cup, especially in Japan, you won't experience anything like it. It's going to be a massive festival. Go and do it and enjoy yourself.
Shane, thanks so much for your time.
No worries, thank you.